And welcome in yet another year, yet another bowl preview show. I think we're looking a little bit more toward previewing this year's bowl, the Holiday Bowl, out in San Diego than we were. Well, we weren't previewing it this time last year. At this time last year, the game was already over. It happened last night this year, the Boca Raton Bowl. Remember that one? Let's try not to remember that one. We had lots else to talk about last year. This year, there's plenty to talk about. There is the game. There's lots of things going on. Here's what we got coming up. We are jamming in as many things as humanly possible in this hour on Q Sports Talk. Welcome in. Brian Higgins with you for the next hour, talking about the DirecTV Holiday Bowl, Syracuse and Washington State. Here's what we got coming up. Mark Neville is the executive director of the Holiday Bowl. He'll be joining us in around about 15 minutes. Alex Brink, color analyst for Washington State broadcast, will be joining us in about half an hour. We will end the hour up with Don McPherson, who will be joining us around about 2:45 today. But where better to start this hour of the show with a guy that, well, he kind of had his own show every week during the course of the season. He is our starting quarterback. He is Kyle McCord. Kyle, thanks so much for hopping on.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Many questions to ask you, Kyle, as we lead into this game. You're a popular guy about town, as you always are. Let's go back to, I guess it was right around a week ago, you said out loud for the first time specifically that you're playing in the game, which is not everybody's choice to do in these things. So how was that decision made on your part?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a group decision, to be honest. A lot of the older guys who had to make that decision if they were playing in the game or not, we all kind of came together and just agreed that we want to go out and do it the right way. Go and try to get that 10th win and just finish the way we started. So as soon as we figured out that we were going to the Holiday Bowl, it was really a no-brainer for all of us to play.
Fran said a week ago Monday something to the effect of, "We don't opt out here." Which was that a prevailing thought amongst you guys?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that a lot of the guys from the start we're leaning towards playing. And obviously everybody has to make their own individual decision on what they want to do. But I think, with the game, with, that 10th win on the line and an opportunity to go out and play on a national stage and against a good opponent. And on top of that, it was really a no-brainer for everybody to go out and, do it the right way, like I was saying.
Yeah, Kyle, we've talked all year about, the goals of this team, and you and Fran and everybody on the squad has been very outward in stating them. You talked about championships and all those things. Obviously, you didn't quite get there. It feels like you've restated the goal of the 10th win, that this really put it out there here in the last few weeks of how important this is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, anytime you have a chance to get to double-digit wins, regardless of what level of football it is, means you had a good year, and obviously came a little short of what we ultimately wanted to do. But at the end of the day, I think, to be ranked and like I said, have that opportunity to go out and do that, I still think there's a good amount of success in that.
What would that do as far as, I guess, cementing the idea of the foundation that you guys laid this year for Fran going forward?
Yeah, I mean, to see where this team was last year, and I think 6 and 7, and then in 1 year with a new head coach and a lot of new players to, jump all the way up to, 21st in the nation, I think is huge. And I think, just being a part of that group that helped change it around and get things going in the right direction, I think is, something that all the guys here want to do, and I know all the young guys are going to want to elevate that standard.
We got our guy Kyle McCord with us, who, of course, joined us all season long. We had the Kyle McCord Show all season long and took questions from the chat and all the great things we did with Kyle all this year. And, man, Kyle, was a great year. But I'll say this. I don't think I've received more questions about you over the course of this year than what I've received over the last week. And it's nothing to do with what you did on the field this last year. You're a man of many rumors right now, Kyle. Do you have anything to say about the idea of a waiver or coming back or anything that's floating around about you right now?
I can't confirm or deny, but yeah, I mean, we'll see how it all shakes out.
Okay. I assumed that was going to be the answer. We had to ask, Kyle, as you know.
Yep.
I assume it's got to be interesting for you to see the general excitement the idea of these rumors has caused about you, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all over like my social media and stuff, but I mean, we'll see. Obviously, still. A lot has to, kind of play out, and still a lot up in the air. So it's still early, but yeah, I mean, I'll probably find out and make a decision what I'm going to do here in the next few weeks.
Yes, and as you know, Kyle, people are going to read into that however they feel like reading into that, which is how these things go. And,
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it many times this year, whether it be now, in a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now. Like, your goal is to play in the NFL. How did what you accomplish this season kind of enforce those ideas that you've already had in your head here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always the goal. Every kid who is playing college football right now wants to play in the NFL, and so to have an opportunity to go do that would be a lifelong dream come true. But I mean, at the same time, I think there's still a lot of good in college football, and there's not so much the financial hurry to get to the NFL. Obviously, with NIL, the college landscape has changed, and I think for me, obviously, like I was saying, it's been a lifelong goal to go to the NFL. So I'm excited. I'm excited either way.
Speaking of NIL, you were hanging out at the dart party last night. Give us the deets. What was going on there last night?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. They started out, the fans were at practice, and, it was a lot more people than I expected to be there, so it was pretty cool to see the turnout with that. They literally covered the entire sideline, which was pretty sweet, and then the party itself was cool, getting to meet some of the people that have been cheering us all year long, and, talk to them and hear some of their stories about being at the games and stuff like that was pretty cool.
All right, looking ahead to this game here a little bit, Kyle, and a lot has changed about this game, it feels like, in literally the last 48 to 72 hours, if not less. So it gets announced you're playing Washington State. I imagine you start learning a little bit about them. I don't know how much of what you learned still stands true. When, their coordinators are gone, their head coach is gone, the quarterback is gone. What has the prep been like for this game when there's so much change in the opponent?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to study scheme, and obviously, who on their side is going to play in the game is, changing pretty much every day, it feels like. So I think, you still have to watch the film, and, they're a good team. And so I'm sure, if it's their starters playing or, guys that maybe didn't get as much time during the year, they're going to be good players. And so, we have to be ready to go and play, and, just have to be ready to find out, what they're going to try to do to us.
You've never really been an eye on the record books kind of guy. That said, quite literally, you could have your worst game of the season, and you could still become the ACC's all-time single-season passing leader. What would a mark like that mean to you? To be passing guys like Matt Ryan, Deshaun Watson, Phillip Rivers, like legit big-time NFL players.
Yeah, I mean, that would be sweet. I wasn't even aware of the record until I think 2 weeks ago. And so just to even be, up there with those guys, it's pretty sweet. Obviously, the conference has had a long list of guys who have, gone on to have great careers in the NFL after tearing up in college. And so to have a chance to go break that would be sweet. But I hope I don't have the worst game of my season. Hopefully we finish it out on a good note.
I say that that's only slightly. You only need 268. I'd say that's still a lot, Kyle. But your season low is 280. So you've had 268 in some games by halftime. So I'm feeling pretty good that you can knock this off.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. No, we'll see. Yeah, fingers crossed though.
Fran said Trevor Pena's coming back next year. Mentioned Aronde Gadsden is moving on, presumably for the NFL. So, last ride with him coming up next week. About the crew you've had around you this season, to have one last chance with all this group assembled next week, what's that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, that was honestly one of the biggest things that went into my decision. One more time to go out with OG and Trev and Jackson, LeQuint, and the whole line, just, making sure that we did it the right way. And it was a lot of fun playing with them all year long. And so to have another opportunity, it wouldn't feel right if, I turned that opportunity down. And so I know that, those three receivers are all smelling 1,000 yards. So, I'm sure, they'll do everything they can to get it. But I mean, it's been a lot of fun. And so just to have one more opportunity to go out and, let it loose with those guys, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, have you worked the math out on what those guys need to get to 1,000 each? They all have at least a quasi-legit shot. I know back in the day, Peyton Manning never missed out on that stuff like last games of the season. Do you know what these guys need coming up in the bowl game?
Jackson Meeks made sure to know, made sure I knew exactly what it was. I think it's like 91 yards or something like that, or 89, my bad, it's 89 yards. He made sure I knew that number. But, I mean, Trev and OG, weren't as demanding as Jackson. That's just kind of how he is. I like it. If I was a receiver, I'd be the same way. I'd make sure my quarterback knew to get me the ball. They're all right there. So it's always a good, healthy competition between those guys. They're all trying to outdo each other.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think Trevor is give or take the same as Jackson, and Arande's just a little bit more. It's if you had it all together, though, it wouldn't be a completely crazy game for you. It would be within the realm of possibility for sure in this game. No stink on going to San Diego, though, right? Like that's a pretty sweet trip for you guys.
Yeah, not bad at all. So we've had 2 good trips out to the West Coast this year so far, so looking to make it 3. But I'm excited. I mean, the weather here in Syracuse has been not up to par. So I'm looking forward to getting some sunshine.
Oh, Kyle, it's not even cold yet, man. Come on.
That's the worst part about it, though. That's the worst part about it. It's going to get worse.
Don't look at the forecast for Saturday or Friday. It's going to be cold here a few days from now. All right, so take me through this bowl game thing as we wrap up with you. You'll be out there. You're doing a lot of stuff. I think you're going to see. I mean, there's huge naval bases out there. You're going to see a ship on one day. You're going to SeaWorld. How do you balance the bowl game fun versus you guys want to go play some football next Friday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to enjoy it. Being out in Cali for a week, you want to make sure that you have a good time and soak it all in. But at the same time, you can't lose focus on the task at hand, and that's to go win a game on Friday. And I'm sure that Coach Fran will be reminding us of that as we're out there. Enjoy yourself, but at the end of the day, keep your mind focused on what matters. I'm looking forward to it. I know they're gonna have some fun stuff planned for us, but at the end of the day, we're there to play football.
All right, go find some fish tacos or something while you're out there. Make sure you get into that. Is that I know you train West Coast, right? You say your quarterback's coach is on the West Coast. I imagine he'll be out in Cali probably at some point after this as well, right?
Yeah, yep. So he trains at San Juan Capistrano, which is kind of right in between LA and San Diego, like about an hour away from each. I do enjoy being on the West Coast. Like I said, we've had 2 successful trips out there this year, so I'm excited to get back out there again.
All right, if you guys win, it would be the first 3-win Pacific time zone season in the history of Cuse football. There, so you can tuck that one under your hat if you pull it off. Also, all right, man, it's been great to talk to you all season long. Thanks for hopping on for a few on our preview show, and enjoy the trip out to San Diego.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate it, brother.
All right, there's our guy, Kyle McCord. Always great to chat with Kyle. All right, everyone, commence now reading into what Kyle said about the waiver and next year. You can make that mean whatever the hell you want it to mean. Where's Elaine? That can mean whatever you want it to mean. Gotta love him. Gotta love our guy Kyle McCord. He's been a blast. It was really great having him on today, for one, that he was willing to make time. But we had him in here every Tuesday. We did his show. We had him on my show. He was down with Gomez. He did all the stuff for us all season long. A true pro at all that stuff. And the rumors. I mean, they're rumoring right now. What do they mean? Who the hell knows? I have no idea. But you can. I could take like the 7 words that Kyle answered that question with, and I can twist that into any pretzel that I feel like, and as can you. So we'll use that to keep ourselves entertained over the course of the next few weeks and watching the portal and all that good stuff. Yes, D. Hayes in the chat. The smirk on Kyle's face. Kyle has a great, I'm not really going to say the words, but you kind of sort of know what I'm thinking, smirk. He's top of the line. In the smirk. Was there any news broken? No. But if you want to believe anything from what Kyle McCord said there, you can believe whatever you want to believe from that sentence. Anything you want to believe from that sentence. Combine that with Fran a week and a half ago saying that Kyle's going to play until the NCAA says he can't. You can believe whatever you want to believe from that. Anything at all that you want to believe from that is ready, waiting, and available for you. I'll say this. I still think it's way more likely he ends up in the NFL next season, regardless of what happens with the waiver. That's just my opinion on it. But we do have this. Regardless of what's going on with Washington State, regardless of who's playing in this game, opt-outs, opt-ins, coaches moving on, whatever. We all get, at minimum, one more game next Friday night to watch this guy play football in a Syracuse uniform. We've had 12. 11 of them have been fun to watch. Even 2 of the 11 losses were kind of fun to watch. The Pitt game, we'll set that aside. The other 11 were great to watch. Let's get 12th. You can break a bunch of records. You can get some guys to 1,000 yards. They can really make some hay out in San Diego next Friday night. With that, let's move along to our next guest here on our DirecTV Holiday Bowl preview shows. We're getting ready for next Friday night, Cuse and Washington State. He is the CEO of San Diego Sports. He is the executive director of the Holiday Bowl. Let's welcome in Mark Neville next up on the show. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. You've had an eventful week, it feels like, with everything going on at Washington State and coaching changes and players in the portal. What's this like from your position to watch that go on at one of the schools you've got in your big game here?
It is so much fun. No, you know what we actually we've been used to this before. You'll remember we had UCLA backed out of our game 5 hours before kickoff back in 2021.
Right.
But Washington State, I was in close communication with their director of athletics, and she assured me every step of the way that they were a go. Their team. I'm hearing a lot now that and I should also say last year, we had USC in our game, and Caleb Williams opted out of that one, and the one who stepped in there was Miller Moss. Very few people knew anything about him, and then he comes in and he throws 6 touchdown passes to lead them to victory over Louisville. And so, it's kind of the same thing this year with them. With John Mateer going into the transfer portal and off to Oklahoma. They have a very similar thing where they have a quarterback that's not very well known who's going to come and he has something to prove. I'm hearing a lot from their team that this is an opportunity for them to finish the season on a high note. They know they're going up against a great Syracuse football team, and they got something to prove. And this is on national TV, and they're ready to go. I've seen a lot of their comments coming out of their team saying that they're ready to go and they can't wait for the opportunity next Friday.
That said, I'm sure you must have enjoyed hearing Fran Brown last week say, "We don't opt out around here," and you roll in with everybody.
Yeah, and man, we're loving everything that we're seeing out of Syracuse right now. And we know they're coming here. This is a business trip for them to win a football game and get 10 wins. A great season for them, great football team, and we're excited to watch them. I know San Diegans are excited to watch the team, and it's going to be a really fun night. We're expecting a lot of points scored next week. The Holiday Bowl is known for that, high scoring, and we're expecting nothing else other than that next Friday.
Yeah, the Holiday Bowl for years and years, and you know this, Mark. I mean, it has a reputation for my goodness, did you stay up for that thing last night? That was just a bonkers game, and it felt like any year you could say the same thing about that. How much does it help? I mean, we're in this whole new era right now with the playoff and opt-outs and the portal. It's a crazy new world here in the last few years. How much does it help that you do have a bowl game here with the reputation of being one of the ones we kind of need to watch this one?
Yeah, we're really lucky. Our history is littered with those ridiculous games. We really pride ourselves on not just the matchups, but we pride ourselves on how we roll out the red carpet for the teams that are playing in our game, for the marching bands, for the cheer squads, and for all the fans. We put on a great bowl trip. We have a great city here in San Diego, and right now outside it's sunny and 74 degrees. And we expect that next week as well. We're a volunteer-run organization. Take great pride in what we do. There's a lot of things that we cannot control. The things that we can, we do a really good job with. The things we can't, our game's charmed. We end up getting a lot of these really great games, high-scoring games, and a lot of times it's people feel this pressure that they have to live up to what the DirecTV Holiday Bowls are known for. And for whatever reason, it works, and we're not arguing with it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's generally very entertaining. By the way, Mark, it's cloudy 30 here with light snow, so just a little bit, which is actually not that bad for Syracuse this time of year.
Yeah.
No complaints here.
Well, not to say anything, I was surfing this morning.
Okay,
so,
yeah, that's
for what it's worth.
The waves on Onondaga Lake were not all that high this morning. I don't think anyone was out there. I look at bowls these days. How different is it for you in the position of a Holiday Bowl, which is it's a higher tier non-playoff bowl? How much is that spot changed here in this playoff era of what the role of what you guys are?
So I've been with the Holiday Bowl now for 34 years. So I've seen a lot of different, just the changes in college athletics. It's different. It's completely different. There's no hiding from it, with the early signing deadline and the transfer portal and NIL and opt-outs and expanded playoff. I mean, there's a lot of things that play against us, But like I said earlier, what we do here in San Diego, we take great pride in what we do. We know the DirecTV Holiday Bowl means something. Our history is incredible. We're a volunteer organization. This is an event that's put on by the community here in San Diego. For those who are going to be coming out here, you're going to see hundreds of people wearing red coats, and those are all of our ambassadors, the ones who put everything on. And we're not giving up on it. You hear a lot in the press about how bowl games are irrelevant and they lost a lot of their meaning. Well, we don't look at it that way. We care about this game. We care about the teams that are here. We care about the fans that are enjoying it. We feel that we are an important part of the fabric of college football. And bowl games do a really good job of celebrating their communities, celebrating college football, celebrating the teams that are in it. And we're no different here in San Diego. And we take great pride in what we do. I mean, literally, I'm not just saying this. We love this game. We take a lot of pride in this game. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that it is still recognized as one of the premier bowl games outside of the CFP.
We have our friend San Diego Cuse in our live chat. Mark, he wants to thank you. He likes the parade and the Sky Show every year. He says they're great. How much does stuff like that? People think of bowl games. You think of, if you're watching on TV, you think of the game. How important is all of the other stuff? The fact that the team gets to go to SeaWorld, all the things you do with the team and in the community.
Really important. And what the team experience is, I would like to think, is second to none to any other bowl game in the country. Like you said, they are going to go to SeaWorld while they're here. They're also going to get an opportunity that not very many people ever get the opportunity to do, and they're going to go on an active Navy ship, and they're going to get a tour of the ship from sailors that are basically the same age as the players that just live totally different lives. And they get to interact with them, and they get to see where they live on the ship and how they live, and it is always a highlight of the bowl trip for the players that come here. And then for fans in our community, this is a 45-year tradition now, and as your listener was talking about, was our parade, the Port of San Diego Holiday Bowl Parade. It's the largest balloon parade in the country. There's more balloons than even the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. We have the 5K. We have the Bowl Bash the night before the game in our downtown district, the Gaslamp district, where the Battle of the Bands takes place, and then the game itself. And you mentioned Sky Show. It's a huge fireworks show that we do post-game. It's called Sky Show. It's a 50-year tradition in San Diego. Used to take place after a Padres game every year, and it was always it was like the 65,000 person sellout for the Padres every year when they weren't that great of a baseball team. Well, we have it now as part of the DirecTV Holiday Bowl, and we really sell it as like two iconic events for just one ticket price. Sky Show is unbelievable, and it's going to be unbelievable next Friday night too. Everything around the game, we have to sell it as much more than just a football game. We're going to have a great football game. The pregame show is a celebration to recognize our local military community. We have a flyover. We have skydivers. We have this giant American flag. The marching bands. Halftime is a special thing for us. We love the college marching bands. We put a lot of energy into that as well. A pregame fan zone that's free for all the fans that are coming to the game, and then Sky Show postgame. It is an amazing ticket. And plus, we got our honorary chair this year. Joey Chestnut's going to be joining us here in San Diego for the festivities as well.
I did see that. Many questions about that here, Mark. So last year, this started. We've seen the Duke's Mayo Bowl. We've seen the Pop-Tart Bowl. We've seen the Cheez-Its Bowl. There's a lot of food stuffs going on in bowl games recently, and this intrigues me to no end. So is Joey doing this himself, or is somebody else doing it? The winning head coach is getting eggnog dumped on them?
Yeah, so we started this last year. Lincoln Riley was the inaugural recipient of Nog on the Noggin, and he loved it. He loved it. Maybe not so much, but he was a good sport. And so we're doing it again this year. We brought in our honorary chair, Joey Chestnut. He will be, he's our CEO, the Chief Eggnog Officer.
Mm-hmm.
He's taken my position. He has overseen the Nog on the Noggin, the eggnog dump, but it will be the players of the team that are actually doing the eggnog dump.
All right, so let's say that Syracuse wins this game here, thinking ahead. So Kyle McCord's got a vat of eggnog in his hands to dump on Fran. This seems to tie your marketing here seems to tie very well in with what Fran Brown's got going on with his new Winners Get Washed merch, because I imagine right after you get the eggnog dump, like straight to the showers, I think.
Yeah, and we did a test run on me last year just to see how this would work.
How'd that go?
And wonderful. I immediately went to our showers that are in our building, and about an hour later, the smell started coming back. And it wasn't as good as it was the first time. But we fixed it all. And now it's perfect. And if Coach Brown is the one who's going to be the recipient of this, it'll all be good. Okay, good. I am pro eggnog. We've discussed that far too often on the show. If you're not, there's a problem. Yeah. So I say this: if you're pro, if once you've had eggnog dumped on you, Mark, like, are you still drinking nog, or did you have to take a step back there for a little minute? No, you know what? Even last night when I got home, I had a nice glass of eggnog. Lovely. It didn't spoil it for me at all. That is great to hear. All right, what are we? We're 9 days out from the bowl game. Looking forward to this. Syracuse hasn't been out. I think the last time Mark Syracuse was out there for a sporting event that I can think of, it would have been basketball in an aircraft carrier, and it was a little windy. It was hard to get the shots to go in, so I think this might go a little smoother. The halftime score was like 4-2 or something like that. Yeah, I know it wasn't 3-2 because nobody could make a three in that game. That's true. That's true. Syracuse did win it, though, so we'll take that. All right, Mark, thanks so much for spending some time. Really looking forward to the game next week, and best of luck with everything. Thanks so much. Yeah, and happy holidays. Thanks. You as well. There he is, Mark Neville, wearer of eggnog at one time, and the executive director of the Holiday Bowl, the CEO of San Diego Sports. I'm telling you, this eggnog and the Fran Brown Winners Get Washed combo, it's everything you could ask for. Like, those two, it goes together. You get eggnog dumped on your head, and you got your Winners Get Washed shirt, and then you go wash off the eggnog. Maybe you do let the smell linger. It's fantastic. I love eggnog. I think, like Mark, I think I will have some eggnog later tonight. Now, I feel inspired by the Holiday Bowl celebrations. In fact, it was when I saw this thing last week is when I bought the eggnog in the first place. This bowl game is causing me to drink a lot of eggnog. Thank you, Holiday Bowl. All right. Washington State side of things has gotten decidedly wonky in the last week, in that Syracuse is getting ready to play Washington State. And my initial complaint was not about the Holiday Bowl or any of that. It was like, well, Washington State, it just doesn't feel like the sexiest of opponents for Syracuse. Then within the last 72 hours, here's what's happened to Washington State. They'd already fired their defensive coordinator. Their offensive coordinator had already left to go to Oklahoma. And since then now, their quarterback, John Mateer, entered the portal. Then their head coach, Jake Dickert, just 41 years old, left from Washington State. He is now the head coach at Wake Forest, of all places, going coast to coast for that. And now John Mateer has announced that for Boku bucks, he's out of the portal and headed to Oklahoma. And on top of that, 20 other guys, half of them starters, have gone into the portal for Washington State. With that, had a chat with color analyst for Washington State, Alex Brink, yesterday, and that's how we started. What has this last few days been like for Alex? Oh, shock and awe. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I guess I'm probably less surprised maybe on the John Mateer front. Look, he's probably the most highly sought-after player in the transfer portal, going to get north of $3 million, if not more, to go to a big-time college football program. Hard to knock a young man for taking that opportunity. And, that being said, Washington State put forth a really good effort and a really good, I think, package in their own right. So, kudos to all the people involved in that. But that's just the nature of college football. When it comes to Jake Dickert, obviously that's much more of a surprise, I think, partially because very late in the cycle, There hasn't been that many job openings, and Jake Dickert said some things publicly that, made you feel like he was going to be at Washington State, at least in the medium term, for sure. But as we all know, things change. And I think, with Dave Clawson retiring suddenly at Wake Forest, a couple days ago, and then, I think that the calculus changed, frankly, and I think for Jake Dickert, and this is, probably the a little pull behind the curtain for everybody there with the Syracuse folks thinking about the game is, Washington State's a really difficult job, and it's been through a lot the last couple of years with the conference realignment and the dissolution of the Pac-12 and, the recreation of the Pac-12, all those sort of things. Well, Jake Dickert and the staff have had to bear the brunt of a lot of that. And I think this move, to me, appears to be an opportunity to take a little bit of a breather. I mean, we all know Wake Forest is also a tough job, but probably better funded. It's in a P4 conference, probably a pay raise for Coach Dickert. So in that scheme of things, you can kind of understand it, but a real difficult day, I think, for Cougs everywhere.
I mean, out here in ACC countries, we're more than a decade in out here, Alex. We're still getting used to saying ACC country here in Syracuse. We keep hearing that, the SEC and the Big Ten is going to swallow up the ACC, but you can tell it's a whole system here of, down below that here is unfortunately Washington State. And man, what are we, 15, 16 months from when that all imploded last year? Take us through that. That had to have been just awful. Has to still be awful, right, going through everything that Washington State's gone through here in the less than the last 2 years.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, look, I'm from Eugene, Oregon, home of the Oregon Ducks. I mean, I'm a West Coast football purist, like through and through. Pac-10, Pac-12. And that's what I grew up on, right? And I feel very strongly about, the product that is West Coast college football. And I think, look, all you got to do is look at the CFP and the top 25 this year to see Oregon, a former Pac-12 school, at number one, Arizona State, a former Pac-12 school, with a first-round bye. You think about some of the success in recent history of, University of Washington last year and so on and so forth, right? Like, I think Pac-12 is a proud conference that has a lot of history, and it was really sad to see the things happen to it. And then ultimately Washington State and Oregon State, who frankly got left behind. And I think that has led us to, all the things that we've seen happen over the last few months. And, really what it ends up being, right, is like the inability for these schools to self-fund and to be able to provide the resources needed for, coaches like Jake Dickert and players like John McKeer to feel like, they can be in that ecosystem in this new college football. Because, look, coaches are getting paid, north of $4 million, top quarterbacks are getting paid, $2 to $4 million. Like, that's just what it is, right? And I think there's a broader conversation here, less about the Pac-12, less about Washington State, and more about, what is this going to be moving forward if the product that is college football is going to remain what we all know and love. Because if you don't put some guardrails on it, if you don't put some guardrails on NIL and transfer portal especially, I think it's going to get harder and harder for fans to really buy into this product, because it's not the NFL, right? Like, we already have the NFL. That's on Sundays. We don't need it on Saturdays. And so I think people love college football for different reasons. And so it'll be interesting to see if some leadership somewhere can step up and again, put some guardrails in.
Alex, it's fast becoming the NFL, but with less binding contracts somehow is the fun of watching.
There's a reason the NFL has that system, and we're finding out why in real time.
All right, so let's look forward here to Washington State. Obviously, the team Syracuse sees on the field for the Holiday Bowl, and they're all saying they're still playing in the Holiday Bowl. You never know. We saw what happened to Marshall last week. Like, there's weird stuff that happens in this day and age. Like, how different is the football we're going to see in San Diego than what Washington State fans have been watching all season, considering coach is gone, quarterback's gone, and a bunch of other people are out the door as well?
I mean, I think it's going to be different faces, but in the end, the coaches that are left on the roster, assuming the coaches that will still be there, come game time, right? The assistant coaches, some of the guys that have been mentioned. Nick Edwards, the receiver coach, was going to call plays, and so he's going to stick with the same system that we've seen, right? Pete Caligas, who's the defensive line coach, who's got a ton of experience from Wyoming. He was the assistant head coach. He's been named the interim head coach. So my assumption is he will work with some of the defensive staff to call defensive plays. So again, I think schematically it'll be similar. Players will be different. The one thing I will say to Jake Dickert's credit and the rest of his staff is they've done a fantastic job in recruiting the past few years. There's some young players on the roster they feel really good about. And if you talk specifically about the quarterback position, they actually have a very veteran backup quarterback in Zevi Eckhouse, who was a transfer from Bryant University. He was the Big South Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, he was a Walter Payton finalist at the FCS level. Very accomplished player, 4 years at Bryant, and lost the offseason battle to John Mateer, but really put up a good fight. And so I think they feel good about Zevi and his experience stepping in and getting a chance to play. They lost their starting running back, one of their running backs, in Wayshawn Parker to the transfer portal, but it was really a three-headed monster with Leo Pulilassi and Javensky Schlembaker. So two backs that are experienced there. And then at the receiver position, they're going to have guys like Kyle Williams, who was a graduating senior, who I assume will play. They lost one receiver to the portal, but return a couple other guys. So I think they have a mix of guys offensively that they can certainly put up a points with, and a coordinator in Nick Edwards who's been around it. Defensively, they lost some really key players, two defensive tackles to the portal. Buda Alex, their top defensive player as a linebacker. So I think they're going to have to figure that out a little bit. But again, some good young players on the roster, and I think in that sense it should look similar.
I mean, you mentioned the quarterback and the kid from Bryant, and go figure how weird conferences are. Bryant's in Rhode Island. The fact that he was the Big South Player of the Year, that goes to tell you how weird things are. But, I mean, you look at what Mateer did this year, which is north of 40 total touchdowns. People may forget. Cam Ward, who was just in the Dome a few weeks ago with Miami, he was there before that. Like, well, what's in the water up there in Pullman right now for what they're doing with quarterbacks?
They don't call it QBU for nothing, right? Ryan Leaf, Drew Bledsoe, Jack Thompson, Jason Gether, on and on and on, right? Luke Falk. And so, Gardner Minshew. I mean, there's certainly something in the wheat fields of the Palouse that creates high-quality quarterbacks. And, those guys were two really good ones for Washington State that, went on to greener pastures, but they wore the crimson and gray, which is pretty fun.
All right, Alex Brink, color analyst, former quarterback in his own right at Washington State. Let's fast forward to the future here, not the holiday future, but beyond. And obviously, it's extremely murky right now. No head coach at the moment. The Pac-12 is attempting to reform itself around Washington State, Oregon State, and then Boise, Fresno, Colorado State, Utah State, San Diego State. They're going to have to get somebody else going forward. What is your level of, I don't know if optimism is the right word, or view of how that's coming together and what that might turn into going forward?
Well, I do think that the reformation of the Pac-12 was the right step, right? Because there was conversations about merging with the Mountain West, just kind of going to the Mountain West. Trying to, then it was kind of the wait it out, see if, you could get a Big 12 invite, maybe the ACC, maybe the lawsuits would all come through and it would all implode and you'd get Stanford and Cal. I mean, there's a million scenarios. In the end, by committing to the Pac-12 brand, you retain the history, which I think is important, the brand value, some of the assets, both financially and, kind of from like a media standpoint. But you also control the narrative, right? So you go out and you pick the teams you want out of the Mountain West, kind of the top tier teams in the Mountain West. When you talk about Boise, Fresno State, Utah State, San Diego State, creates a really good basketball conference, solid football conference. You add Gonzaga, which really ups the ante, right, from a basketball standpoint. So I think that's a positive. I think the challenge is next year is still that transition year, right? Like that's not the Pac-12. That's not happening until 2026. So, for instance, Washington State is playing a funky football schedule. They got to play Oregon State twice. They got to go out to Virginia. They got to go out to James Madison. They got to play at Ole Miss. It's not, that part's difficult. And now, right, with all the transition, not just John Mateer, but coaching-wise from a football standpoint, how do you kind of recover from that in a transition year? It's going to be very difficult. And so I think long-term, I think the idea of the Pac-12 and kind of the reformation of the conference is correct, because I think from a very broad stroke, we all know that, 28, 29, most of the media rights contracts are going to be up. There's probably going to be more consolidation. So schools like Washington State and Oregon State would have gotten left out anyway. Wake Forest, by the way, will get left out also. And so, I think there's the idea of creating a quality regional conference that you can go sell in a media rights package probably makes sense. And then you just got to kind of build the brand. And look, Boise State has shown in a 12-team college football playoff that you can compete for a championship and get in and be relevant And I think that's kind of the best case scenario that you hope for Washington State, Oregon State, and all those in the Pac-12.
Well, Alex, we kind of saw it from the other side of the coin last year. Syracuse was in a bowl game, different circumstances, but interim head coach and the whole deal. And now it's the other side of the coin here with Washington State on the field this year. Enjoy San Diego anyway. I'm sure you get to enjoy heading down there. I don't know what we're going to see on the field, but enjoy the trip anyway.
Yeah, 100%. No, I sure appreciate it.
Oh, it was good to chat with Alex yesterday. Man, it has been a whirlwind out in the Palouse, which is still fun to say here, over the course of the last few days. I'd say I hadn't spent a second thinking about Washington State football all season. Then you try to lock in a little bit on this bowl game, and literally in the last 72 hours, their QB's in the portal, their head coach is gone, and their quarterback's at Oklahoma. You're like, oh. Then you're like, how many? Oh, half their starters are gone. Oh, huh. And you watch the spread open at some places as low as about 3. It's now north of 2 touchdowns, just soaring up by the day. And Kyle McCord quite aware of what he needs to do to get his guys' stats. Kyle McCord's non-answer smirk is currently dominating the internet. Shouts to Kyle. What did he actually say? Nothing at all. Or did he say everything? Oh, man, he's fun to talk to. He's fun to talk to. You know who else is fun to talk to? Our final guest here on our Holiday Bowl preview show. He is the one, the only, Don McPherson. Don, always good to chat. So I'm sure you've seen the rumors swirling about our friend Kyle McCord here about whether he can somehow weasel another year of eligibility. His answer to me with a smirk on his face, I can't confirm or deny. We'll see how it all shakes out. He's an amazing PR specimen. I love everything Kyle McCord right now.
Well, in the political season, that's the way you're supposed to answer. You're not supposed to show your cards. There's too many things up in the air right now. It's still December.
Exactly. And, man, he joined you as a Syracuse quarterback who got some Heisman votes last week, so that was kind of cool to see him pick up enough to finish in 10th. I know he doesn't get to go to the ceremony and all that like you did, but what do you think that means to a guy to get a few numbers next to his name like that?
It's really a great honor just to be in that conversation. And I always say this, and I've been saying this for the last 35, 7, however long it's been, is that, and I vote on, a few other college football awards, the quarterback awards and all that. And there's no such thing as the best player in college football. I'm sure Kyle McCord would say, hey, man, Pena and Meeks and LaQuinn Allen and all those guys up front, they all made it happen for him. And it's a humbling thing to be singled out when you're still on a team, but it's just a great honor to be named in the hunt for what's arguably the greatest award in the world, actually.
And now we get this bowl game, and man, it's only been a few weeks since this game has been announced, and 8 million things have changed already, and that's just the world of college football here in 2024. Fran Brown last week said, hey, we don't opt out around here, and guess what? Nobody's opted out around here, including the quarterback. Then you look at the other side of the coin, their coordinators are gone, their coach is gone, their quarterback's gone, half their starters are gone. How differently do you look at this game now than when we first heard about it a couple weeks ago?
Brian, if you and I have talked, and if you talk to me off air, you'll hear me talk about how insane college football is right now, from top to bottom. Everything from this legislation that's coming down to everything that's going on now. Like I said, it's December, and I'm not one. I'm like Fran Brown, right? You don't opt out. I would have never opted out on my teammates, but you got to look across the aisle and say, wait a minute. Washington State doesn't have their quarterback. They don't have their quarterback. He was not only their leading passer, he was also their leading rusher. He was the bulk of their offense. And then they lose their coach and 19 players. There's been times that I guess somebody dropped out of a bowl game already, I believe. Last year.
Marshall did a couple weeks ago because their whole team transferred out, basically.
Their whole team, exactly. So you have to look, if you're Syracuse, and I hate to say this, but why would you put your starters in a game if the guys who can come back for you? I just think it's all of a sudden it goes, what's the value proposition of playing a game when you're about to play the other team's backups? And obviously it's the last game of the season, it's the reward, it's all that. But if you're, no offense, if you're a guy like Kyle McCord and you've got a shot to go in the NFL, why would you put yourself at risk with a team that's going to barely field guys the backup quarterback is taking 7 snaps all year? Why would you risk injury or risk even playing that game? I know, again, I know Coach Brown talks about we don't opt out around here, and we play football when football's to be played. But this dropping out of bowl games or players opting out really cheapens the game, and it's really hard to say I'm going to go put my best foot forward when the other team has actually quit before they even arrive in Bowl City.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I don't know about you. I didn't watch a second of Washington State football all year, and now the game gets announced. Like, okay, well, let's learn a little bit about this team. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they're kind of interesting. And then all of the interesting things you learn about them, they're not there anymore. So that changes. And now we've heard Fran all year and Kyle all year and this team all year talking about championships and undefeated and all that. They have very quickly here postseason reshifted and restated that, like, hey, 10 wins matters to us. They have said it out loud now as a thing. In this world of, bowl games being kind of weird and nebulous, like, how much does this game matter for the idea of this team getting 10?
I think it matters a lot, and contradicting probably what I just said about do you put your best foot forward? It means a lot. 10 wins in Fran Brown's first year is big. It means a lot because there's still a bunch of high school student athletes who are considering where they're going to attend college next year. It means a lot because the transfer portal's open and guys are going to be looking for the best place that's on the upswing where there's going to be opportunities to possibly, if you look at Syracuse's schedule, they're 1, maybe 2 wins away, and they would probably games they should have won, Stanford and BC, away from being in the playoff or being in the ACC championship game. And so that 10th win means a lot. It means a lot when the polls come out next year. And remember, Syracuse was so low preseason, it was hard for them to break into the poll, to break into the top 25. It's harder to get in. But when you end your season with 10 wins, you'll start a little bit closer to that top 25, if not in the top 25, especially if Kyle McCord comes back and declares he's going to get another year. Syracuse will be in the top 25 going into next season. And so it means a lot to get that 10th win.
Yeah, and again, there's zero clue if that has any chance at all of happening. If it does, like, that would be something, Donnie. And the reason I think we talk about it so much, this thing that probably isn't going to happen, it's like, man, if it somehow did, right, this suddenly becomes probably the most anticipated offseason in the history of the program with the lead up if you had a guy like him coming back.
It would, and you gotta look at the guys you're gonna lose. And listen, Syracuse got a lot out of their senior leadership this year. Justin Barron, Quinn Allen, those guys played really, really well. And Deuce Chestnut and Fidel Biggs, those guys played really well. They got a lot of production from their leaders. The question is, how many of those guys do you retain, and who steps up, and what kind of weapons is Kyle McCord going to have? And he's got some guys coming back, but it's a matter of keeping that momentum going. And you're exactly right. They fill in a couple of spots, maybe on the O-line, maybe on the defensive line, and all of a sudden this team is looking really formidable for next year.
Yeah, that Tennessee game would go from, oh my goodness, to like it was circled and starred and exclamation marked as we spend months leading up to it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's to your point. Next season's schedule is a lot tougher than this year's, but that Tennessee game looms big. If they've got some momentum coming off of this year, it's going to help them.
All right, Donnie, I look at these end of the season games, and again, is the bowl game important and 10 wins important? Yes. But also, it is, in some sense, an exhibition, right? I go back to, I'm looking at the stats here. Jackson Meeks has 911 receiving yards, so he's 89 from 1,000, and he has led Kyle. Kyle is now well aware of that, courtesy of Jackson. Trevor Pena is 129 away from 1,000. Aronde is 140 away from 1,000. It's not like the easiest climbs, but it's all potentially doable if you have a big game here coming up. I always think back to like some of Peyton Manning's Week 17 games where they had it all sewn up, and he'd go out and get Marvin and Reggie Wayne and Dallas Clark. They get all their bonuses and get on the bench by halftime. How much in a game like this do you go out and try to get some dudes some stats here and get them some nice round numbers to end things off?
Yeah, and LaQuinn Allen is 99 yards away from 1,000.
Where's he at? He's 99 for LaQuinn.
Yep, 8,000-yard rusher, 4,000-yard quarterback, a couple of 1,000-yard receivers, and those numbers are what you recruit on. Those numbers are what your point. It's in the NFL, it's a bonus. You get the guys a bonus, but in colleges, it could be an NIL dollar. Who knows how these guys' NIL packages are worked out? If there's bonuses for reaching those milestones, and college football players should start thinking about those numbers. And again, it's when it comes to recruiting and attracting guys in the transfer portal, you want to show that this is a place where you can put up numbers. This is a place where you can come and you're going to put up big numbers because the offense is going to be wide open. You see the number of attempts. We're going to count McCord's attempts. I think he had probably as many attempts in the season I had in 3 years. And so you're going to show that a quarterback's going to come here and he's going to be allowed to sling the ball, right? He's going to be able to throw it a bunch. And so those kinds of numbers are really good when you're trying to attract the next guys in the portal.
All right, we're going to look that up real quick, Don. That's where I feel we looked this up early in the season. But so McCord this year, he threw 558 passes. Don McPherson. Oh, what a nice old black and white photo here of Donnie sporting the mustache. You're looking young and sharp here. Don. All right, in your 4 years of playing, you threw 686 in 4 years. So okay. There you go. You snuck them out slightly when you put all 4 years on the paper.
That's right. You got 4 years. I'm only slightly beating them out for what he did in one season.
Without looking it up, I'm sure you got him. I'm sure you got him nipped by just a fair bit in rushing yardage. I'm sure you got him on that for sure. And Kyle, look at Kyle here by the passing numbers. He's 268 away from setting the ACC single-season record for passing yardage, a.k.a. he could have his worst game of the season and set the ACC single-season record for passing yardage and blow past some guys by the name of Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, and Deshaun Watson here in this game. Like, that's not small potatoes, right? Like, that's pretty heady historical territory here.
It really is, and especially given, I go back to this. Those guys, Deshaun Watson, and those guys were in a program, established head coaches that had history, and they were there for a number of years before they put up those kinds of numbers in a single season. And so this guy coming in one season, new head coach, new coordinator, and putting up those kinds of numbers is really quite remarkable.
All right, before we cut you loose here, Donnie, what do you think happens in this game? I mean, on the face of it, it would seem like Syracuse should destroy them. Like, they're showing up as whole as one can be at this point. Washington State appears to be in shambles when you look at their roster and their staff. Do you think it plays out that way, or could this be a tougher game than Syracuse thinks they might be getting into?
I was watching that Cal UNLV game last night, and Cal went through quarterbacks sort of the way that I go through coffee in the morning, and they were down to the last drop of QBs, and I think that's what you're going to see from Washington State. You have a quarterback who they don't have a quarterback on their roster who's attempted more than 10 passes, and so they're going to be inept on offense. You got a guy who's just got a couple weeks to get ready for a bowl. You got a lot of disgruntled players because now the head coach is gone and half the team, 19 players are gone from the roster. You have a lot of a lot of unrest going on there at Washington State. So I think it's going to be really hard for them to come ready to play football in this bowl game. And on the other side, to your point, if Kyle McCord announces he's coming back for another year and there's some momentum. They want that 10th win. They want to get those guys to their 1,000-yard marks. Syracuse is going to come, ready for bear. They're going to come slinging the ball all over the place and open up the playbook and have a lot of fun. And if that happens, you will see Kyle McCord get his record. You will see LaQuinn Allen get 1,000. You will see Meeks get 1,000. You'll see those numbers put up, and it will be, unfortunately, an ugly game to watch if you're west of the Mississippi and then haven't seen Syracuse play all year. You're about to find out why Kyle McCord is the leading passer in the country.
Yeah, and heck, if we get to watch that one more time in a blowout, so be it. We'll enjoy it one more time here this season with Kyle slinging it around, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Donnie. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for stopping by our bowl preview special, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, Don.
There he is, our guy, Don McPherson. Always good to chat with Donnie. That's gonna put a nice bow on our holiday bowl preview special. Man, a lot happened that hour. Kyle McCord smirking at us, saying nothing. The smirk seen around the world. Mark Neville talking about eggnog getting dumped on his head. Alex Brink bringing the Washington State's perspective, and it's always good to talk to our guy, Don McPherson, regardless of how it plays out. All right, so before we let you go, if you missed, it's loading. If you missed the beginning of the show, still loading. We'll talk more about this at 4 o'clock coming up in the 315. We're loading. This is us loading. This is me loading. If you missed the beginning of the show, hang on. Go back. Unpause. Pause. Unmute. Kyle McCord within the last hour. Why can I not hear it? Did I not unmute it? I hit the unmute button. That was very anticlimactic. I thought we set that up. Unmute. All right, take 2. Kyle McCord within the last hour. Wow, this is really blowing up in my face. Kyle McCord within the last hour. Do you have anything to say about the idea of a waiver or coming back or anything that's floating around about you right now?
I can't confirm or deny, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out.
Okay. I assumed that was going to be the answer. We had to ask Kyle. Do you have anything to say about that? Kyle McCord had, what's the nice way to say it? He had the biggest bleep-eating smirk on his face of all time while saying that. What did the smirk mean? I don't know. Neither do you. And that is the beauty of all of that. Oh, bowl preview show. All right, we'll let you go. If you're watching our preview show live, or if you're watching it on Q Sports Talk on the YouTube on replay at any point, do know our pregame show for the Holiday Bowl will start. It will be a Q Sports Talk exclusive pregame show, 6 to 8 o'clock, leading into the Holiday Bowl coming up on Friday, the 27th. For those of you hanging out live, we're going to step aside for a few. We'll be right back with the sports show with Cody Mack here in a few minutes. I'll be along at 4. See you guys later.